What's up YouTube, Saf here on Super Saf TV, and welcome to another Super Saf style camera comparison, this time between the Google Nexus 5X and the iPhone 6s. Now we'll be looking at both the front and rear facing cameras as well as images and videos too. And do also look out for the audio icon in the corner of the screen, and that will indicate to you which device the audio is coming from as well. And I'll be switching between these two so you get a good idea of the differences in audio too. So we're currently indoors, we've got some good light, and we are using the front facing cameras of both devices. We are going to be heading outside and doing some rear facing camera tests, and then we'll do some low light tests and low light selfies too. So do hit that thumbs up button and let's get straight to it. So now we're filming from the rear facing cameras on both devices. They are both at 4K right now. Now this video is exported out at 1080p, but what this does mean is that we can crop in and get lots more detail. Now we'll just take a walk. Neither of these have optical image stabilization, just to see what the walking is like and just the general stability. Now just trying out the same walk at 1080p. 1080p is usually more stable, so just to see if there's much of a difference. So now we're indoors with the Nexus 5X, just testing out the autofocus. So going from something that's far to something that's close. Seems to be doing okay. Now same lighting with the iPhone 6s, and going from something that's far to something that's close. Also seems to be doing a decent job. Now just a quick side-by-side test in relatively low light, just so you can see the difference in brightness. So that was the video. Now let's have a look at some images. So before I start, a disclaimer that all images and videos that was shot were on automatic mode, so I didn't bother tweaking anything, and everything was set on auto because that's how most people will be using their smartphones. They were also at the highest resolution that you have on these cameras, so 12.2 megapixels on the 5X and around about 12 megapixels on the 6S. So let's get straight to it. So initially we're starting off with some selfies, Super Saf style, the car selfie that you guys are used to seeing. So here the Nexus 5X seems to be doing a better job in terms of the colors. It's also not blowing out the highlights on my face. I mean, both of them are blowing out the background, but the Nexus 5X does seem to be doing a better overall job. With the iPhone 6s, you can see that a lot of the highlights have been blown out on my face area, and it's also got a bit of a yellow tint. So if you look at my jacket as well, you've got this sort of yellow tint on here, whereas the Nexus 5X is definitely doing much better overall. Now moving on to a low light selfie. So here the Nexus 5X definitely has better detail. If you look towards my beard, you can see better detail, but the color's slightly off. I mean, especially if you look towards the background, it's a white wall and you've got this sort of, I'm trying to figure out the color, it's sort of a purplish tint slightly, whereas the iPhone 6s, it does have better colors. However, it's not as sharp in terms of detail, so I would have to call this one a bit of a draw. Now the iPhone 6s does have a front-facing flash, which illuminates the screen, so it's not a standard flash, it just illuminates the screen and does give you some better detail and colors. And here you can see that the details, like if you look towards my beard, have now been maintained a little bit better compared to before, and the colors are still slightly better than the Nexus 5X. So I think I would have to give the edge overall to the iPhone 6s for low light selfies. Now moving on to an outdoor image in good light, both are doing a great job in terms of detail. Now there's a big difference in terms of the colors. The 5X seems to be a lot more saturated compared to the iPhone 6s. Now I can't remember the exact colors of these flowers. I think they were in between both of these. So it is going to come down to your personal preference. I do think both are doing a good job. Now let's go in 100%. And you can see here we've got lots of detail on both of these. Those droplets are really sharp on both. I would give the slight edge to the Nexus 5X here. I just think the details are a tad sharper, and it has done a better job in terms of snapping that focus on to this flower, and that might be thanks to the infrared autofocus. Now moving on to an outdoor wide image, I think both are doing decent here once again, but I would give the edge to the iPhone 6s. I think it's got better dynamic range. You've got a brighter image if you look in the foreground, but the clouds are still maintained, so you still do have details in the clouds. They've not been washed out or anything, so I would give the edge here to the iPhone 6s. The Nexus 5X isn't doing bad at all, but I do think the iPhone 6s is just doing slightly better. Now moving on to low light. So this is something that I was hearing a lot about, is that the Nexus 5X is a beast in low light. And as you can see from this image outside, It is definitely a beast in low light, and you can see that it's doing miles better compared to the iPhone 6s here. You've got so much more detail and color. So the edge for low light outdoors does have to go to the Nexus 5X. Now I thought I'd take this a test further and bring it indoors in a more controlled situation. So this was in relatively low light and both seem to be doing okay, but the iPhone 6s is slightly sharper. So I decided to take this test even further and dip the light down some more. And here you can see that the Nexus 5X is definitely doing better. You've got a much brighter image. The iPhone 6s is grainy as hell, so definitely the edge goes here to the Nexus 5X. But if we go in 100%, you can see that the iPhone 6s is slightly sharper on the Nexus 5X. It is starting to blur a little bit. Now I did some more research and I found out that the Nexus 5X was using a shutter speed of 1/10 of a second, whereas the iPhone 6s was using a shutter speed of 1/17 of a second. So the slower shutter speed on the Nexus 5X is letting in more light, but it is going to introduce some shake into your images. Now that's not going to be a problem generally, but if you do zoom in, then you may notice some shake here, and optical image stabilization would have helped. So this is just something to bear in mind, but overall I would give the edge in low light to the Nexus 5X, because generally speaking, your low light images such as the tree will be better on the Nexus 5X. Now moving on to an image with flash. Here I think the Nexus 5X is doing slightly better. It's not as washed out as the iPhone 6s, so I would give the edge here to the Nexus 5X. Also on the table, I think the colors are slightly better compared to the iPhone 6s. So there we have it, the epic camera comparison between the Nexus 5X and the iPhone 6s. I think both did a great job overall. Lots of detail and some great colors. Slight differences in colors between both, but I think both did a great job overall. In terms of the front-facing camera, for good light, I would give the edge to the 5X. In low light, overall, I would give the edge to the iPhone 6s, especially because of that front-facing flash. It does help better maintain some accurate colors. Now for video, I think I would have to give the edge overall to the iPhone 6s. I think it produced more stable footage. Now neither of these have optical image stabilization, but I think the digital stabilization did definitely help on the 6s, so I would have to give the edge to the 6s for video because of that reason. Now images in good light, I think it was pretty much a draw. I think both did very, very well. But in low light, the 5X did shine. Now yes, it does use a slower shutter speed to let in more light, and that might result in slightly blurry images if you don't have a steady hand, but overall you do get better images in low light on the 5X. Now in terms of audio, it was a difficult decision, so I'll let you have a listen once again and decide for yourself which one you like better. So now we're filming from the rear facing cameras on both devices. They are both at 4K right now. Now this video is exported out at 1080p, but what this does mean is that we can crop in. That's what I think anyway. What do you think? Do drop me a comment below and let me know which one you liked overall. One thing that I'm definitely impressed with is the price of the 5X. Considering it's so much cheaper, it does do a very, very good job, and it does really compete in a lot of areas, and in lots of areas actually exceeds the iPhone 6s, so very impressed there. Now if you want to see more images from lots of different devices, then be sure to go ahead and give me a follow on Instagram. I'm always switching devices and I'm always posting images from all of them on Instagram on a daily basis, so that will be useful for you if you are interested in seeing some more examples. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you did, then please do hit that thumbs up button for me. It really does help me out, and if you haven't already, then be sure to subscribe to the channel. I've got plenty more quality content like this coming up. You can also see my previous related video here in the annotations and stay in touch with me over social media. Thanks for watching. This is Saf on Super Saf TV. I'll see you next time.